Okay, we're gonna open the Fire Adaptive Community Committee meeting at 10 o'clock. So let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Secretary, we're gonna do a roll call.
Greg? Mike?
Here.
David?
Here.
Scott? Vicky?
Here.
Mark?
Here.
And Ray.
Here.
Thank you.
I had a copy of the agenda, it's already sent out, so I would ask anyone to make suggestions or do a vote for finalizing this. There was one thing.
I move that we accept the agenda.
I pass. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
There is one item, and we're gonna get to it later, that's the bylaws. In the past, we've had a meeting, and most of the village meetings, they have an opportunity for a non-member to make a comment, and maybe that's something we can add to our agenda for the future. I know that Guy has addressed this before, and I think maybe in the bylaws we can define that. But usually it's 3 minutes, is that right? Yes. Is everybody okay with an introductory comment from Guy now?
Certainly.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I'm here to ask regarding the new wildfire protection fees. I got my new one.
Program for the fire department, we're also looking at different avenues as far as what tools and equipment we need as well. It is on the horizon as far as when it's going to happen, to be determined. But right now, there is nothing in place. You are correct. But it is something that I am aware of and that I'm working towards.
There is an agenda item on the fuel modification ordinance that we are going to be continuing. Well, maybe the first discussion will be today, but it won't be finalized today. So we will be modifying that fuel modification ordinance at some point.
I hadn't heard anything that about the inspections. How does one know about it? Or
So we're actually kind of doing it based on the CWPP, and what the CWPP determines is the high hazard area.
That's a community wildfire protection plan
yeah.
that Forest Stewart-Skill gives us every 4 or 5 years.
And so we're working based on the highest hazard areas that they determine. If you are interested in getting your property assessed, you can call our Carly, who's also in charge of the slash program, and she can put you on a list for inspection.
What was that number? Is that the general fire number? The non?
You can call that number, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll get you transferred over to the right place.
Can you call that number to see whether your property has been assessed?
Yes.
So do I understand there is still, you're still working on the concept, and there is a good possibility that we could arrive in some way of the carrot and the stick, and
Yes.
if people thin, then.
The council wants me to work towards that. I kind of educated them. It is a process as far as like how to get there, how to word it correctly, how to we have to assess the properties before we even like determine if anyone's going to be eligible.
377?
There had to be a process.
3347.
And so, yes, I am working towards the carrot. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Guy.
Thank you.
Okay, I understand that Guy Woods is on the phone. Don Clark. So we can add him to the.
Don Clark.
Don Clark.
Guys right there.
Oh,
Guy's here.
I turn mine off.
Yeah, right, sorry about that. Okay, sorry. Okay, approval of minutes. They were issued. I didn't pass them out, but does anybody have any recommended adjustments to the minutes as written?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All second.
Everybody approved? Yeah,
Just hang it up. He must have
it must be on.
disconnected.
Would everybody vote on approving the minutes as written?
Aye.
Okay. So these are the minutes. I'll sign them and give them to Keith before we depart today. Okay, getting into the agenda items, old business. There was a distribution of the committee membership list, and behind the agenda, I've got a list of exhibits that we'll refer to. I have that listed as Exhibit 1, however, it's right at the back. I didn't have it before I walked in. Had this staple, so if anybody needs, a hard copy, there it is. Okay, item B, status of grant opportunities, and we'll start off. I know that Fire Chief has had some discussions with Cimarron Watershed Alliance, and maybe you could give us an update as to where they are. It's due at the end of October, the Community Wildfire Defense Grant.
So we're still looking at probably $4 to $8 million based on Rick Smith. They are still planning on doing it. He started the grant 2 weeks ago. He hopes to have a rough draft by the end of the month.
End of September.
For us to review. And Mark, you were in that meeting. Anything else pertinent?
I'm not sure I was at the very last one.
Oh,
I
okay.
was on vacation.
Well, that was the one you were like hitting the miss on.
Yeah, I got about every third word. So,
How much is the grant?
We're looking at $4 to $8 million.
Okay.
Max is 10 million.
Correct. And so we are working towards that. It's still in the works for the CWD grant. Rick Smith, I usually send him a weekly text message, like, what do you need? What type of information? Brett Weir has been getting him a lot of information as far as like county level, because it's more than likely going to have to be a grant that we apply in conjunction with the county. So a lot of the thinning will probably be occurring south on the border of Angel Fire and Black Lake.
That's the high risk area.
It is a high risk area, and so it is in conjunction with the CWPP, so it kind of works out great for us to be able to do that. And so that's kind of the process for the grant. Questions about that?
Is there anything to address greenbelt areas, especially the east side of 434 going up towards the Vale Loop, which was...
We want to create basically a fire break at some point, kind of Black Lake, and then like due north to like the resort property. That's where we want to create like a large fire break.
And that would be actually on the west side of 434.
Correct.
Okay.
One thing I remember in the earlier discussions, and it was that they are not going to be granular specific in this proposal.
No.
It's a more broader allocation of money, and we will decide on, the priorities within the space.
We kind of put like some vague ideas in there, widening the current fire break up here, creating a fire break up here, and creating a fire break up here is kind of like, or down there is what we're kind of like the vagueness of it. We will have to do both property and public property to make that happen. And so we'll kind of to be determined on that. We're also putting in for a CWDG also allows us to put in more than one grant. So we're putting in for a brush truck through the CWDG.
A what?
A brush truck.
Oh, that's true.
So about $250,000 grant
So that's not a part of the.
That's not a part,
Okay, so now-
completely separate. We're not like, by putting in more in one, we're not losing out on opportunity. We're, you know, if they're gonna throw out a lot of money, we're gonna try to catch as much as we can. What other grants?
Let me just ask, and I'm glad to hear that maybe September's a good target date. As far as our meetings, I mean, our next meeting is on Tuesday, the 3rd of October, and I know the council meets, what, the 10th and 24th maybe? Okay. So a question or discussion is, and it's not something you just pick up and review in 5 minutes and have comments on. So I want to throw out a question to the committee as to who would like to be involved in a more detailed review of that can bring it to the committee on the 3rd. I mean, the whole point being, are we going to make recommendations to the council? And if so, that would probably need to be on the 10th, wouldn't it?
Well, we don't necessarily have to make recommendations to council on what is in there. We'll do like we'll do a rough draft, we'll review the document, and then as far as like acceptance of by council, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I can put in for grants kind of like daily if I wanted to. It's when we get awarded the grants is when I need the approval of council. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
And so I put in group for grants. If I see open money, I put in for it all the time.
Okay.
And so,
Well, okay, that's much more clear.
okay.
But, I mean, I would like to review it and, just have anyone want to give that information to you.
And feedback
So
will
should
be,
that be maybe on the 3rd we bring it, or just anytime up to some date we give it? to
when
you?
I get it, I will distribute it for
Okay.
feedback for sure.
Are we still talking about
The CWD.
Okay, and so you're wanting to review a grant application that Rick Smith is putting together for a larger area than just Angel Fire. That's still the case, correct? Because we've run into that issue.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was discussed on that call. Like I said, I was having really bad connection issues, so.
So basically, how it sits now is the awards are going to be much stricter as far as a point scale. It's based on a 100-point system. It's basically 10 points per question, and we automatically lose 10 points by being Angel Fire.
Right.
Because of our average income. And so in order not to lose those points, we're going to apply in conjunction with Colfax County, and then we won't automatically lose those 10 points. And so the more points we get, the higher likelihood of award. And so that's what we're looking for.
Okay. So sometime around the next meeting, you'll have that and we can start giving you comments.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. That's very clear.
You said next week,
No, next meeting.
our next meeting.
Yeah, our next meeting. So Rick tentatively wanted to get a rough draft done by the end of September.
Right. Okay.
So,
Okay, on page 2 of the exhibits, and this is something I forwarded to the fire chief, and it's not clear, I don't know if you've had a chance to, but there is this micro grant program from the New Mexico Fire Adaptive Committee, $2,000. The scheme of things, 2,000. So I don't know if we can research this more, but we would want to propose on this, I think. And so I just wanted to kind of clarify that we don't need to do anything on this now. It doesn't take.
I have not looked into it. I will take a closer dive into that for sure. I was working on another grant that was due a few days ago.
Okay, well, then the floor is open to you on other grants.
There was the State Fire Marshal Office awards grants for the fire department every year. And I was waiting to see, they always list like, here's their priorities of what they are looking to fund. And number 1 was a new fire station. So I applied for a grant to start that process.
Okay. That wraps that topic up. Item C is the fire committee bylaws, which keep very addressed from the last meeting discussion. It's quite detailed, as it should be. And we could spend probably the rest of this meeting, going through it. If anybody has any comments now, we'll certainly accept them. Anybody reviewed that and want to make a comment? My recommendation is this, that we form a small subcommittee to go through that and come up with any recommendations, thoughts, wordsmith out of them, and present it to the whole committee for finalizing next month. My recommendation is that, and I already asked the secretary if she would join me for a short meeting tomorrow at 1:00 at New Mexico Bank and Trust conference room. It's right after the Rotary meeting. To do that so that, we can spend some time discussing. I think in part of the whole, it's very good, but I don't want to just brush it off either as.
Yeah, and I mean, whatever you suggest as changes, just send it to me or me and the mayor.
Okay.
She's gonna have to
That's
have
what
final
we-
approval.
That's what we
on
would
everything.
suggest is next meeting, we'll bring forth the subcommittee's recommendations and then we'll vote. Okay. So anyone now that wants to join us? Okay. Okay, well, then Martha and I will do the deep dive. Item D, /processing update. Sort of an open item.
Yeah, so I give staff reports at least once a month to council. And with that, I kind of get a report from our /supervisor and operator, Josh Candelaria, as far as like how much slash we are disposing of. What I've been working on with him is numbers are one thing, pictures tell a lot better the picture, or a story, I should say. And so he's working on getting me some pictures as far as like from the beginning to where we're at now. And there's been a huge dent in the amount of old slash that has been taken care of. And so I'll get those pictures and
That's at the
distribute.
transfer station.
That is behind this transfer station in the slash pit back there. And then all the new stuff is pretty much getting disposed of as we get it.
I think all of the stuff came from my property.
Perfect.
Well, we're gonna, on a new business item, we'll talk about this a little more. How we can-
So are we burning every permitted day?
So with the burn ban in place, I put like an exception clause in there for us to be able to still burn in the ACI. So we're burning today, actually.
Okay. It's so clean, you can't see it,
Correct.
No, and you can't smell it.
which is great.
Yep.
Now, we have one of those in operation.
Yes, right now. The new one, there with the transition, we lost the keys to the brand new air burner. And so we had to order them and then all like the title, the serial number. So those keys should be in this week. So as of next week, we should have 2 burners in.
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, E, communications for town hall. This is a continuing discussion. We, in the past, decided to delay a town hall this year and into the spring of next year. Communications, and frankly, at that point, we would have a lot more of the details, such as the fuel modification ordinance finalized, and we can be very specific with respect to what homeowners, lot owners need to be aware of and working on. Okay, so I know Mark had mentioned that at that point, when we decide to communicate that the resort could send out on our behalf a notice. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think so.
Oh,
So don't hold me to it for sure.
Okay.
But I don't think there's gonna be a problem.
I think throughout, I think visiting with some of the board members, they agree that if there's something that needs to go out, they're all. for it.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be a problem. Like I said, I just
Good.
Okay.
lawyer, so I'm not gonna say straight up,
Like,
yes, if it's not, if I don't know
well, the
for
big
sure.
question right now everybody has is why, I mean, I understand why we quit picking up slash in October, if it's a normal October. But years past, we haven't gotten our first snow, measurable snow, that really impeded picking up slash till December. So I would hope that if there's slash and the truck can run safely.
So we actually changed that at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
What we changed it to is April to October, weather dependent.
Okay,
And the reason I put weather dependent is
Yeah.
a lot of the times we can work way past October,
right.
and then we may not be able to start working in April.
It might be June,
It might
like this
so.
year.
And
So
so.
good, good,
We
good,
did change that
good.
at the beginning of the year.
Because that's the one question I get.
Yeah.
Is why,
It's,
you know,
that's an old rule.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good to know.
Okay, well, that's, list A is the resort and in conjunction with that.
Right. Just visiting with Bruce, we were talking about other topics and this came up. And he thought, AFCO, the membership access they have, they can send out, communications to homeowners to let them know that the program's up and running.
So this would include vacant owners too.
Homeowners, I mean, I'm
All
sorry,
landowners.
Property.
Yeah.
all
All
landowners.
property.
Yeah, I don't think they have the ability to segregate between
No.
properties that have a
We-
home and ones
Yeah,
that,
well,
do not.
obviously, we want landowners and homeowners doing their thing.
Yes.
And if they know the program, was down for many years because you just saw slash laying around all over the place. And now that it's up and running again, most people come in for the weekend, they're out of here, we don't have a local paper anymore. And so the communication has to come to the chamber, the village, or after.
And the chamber will send it out, the village will send it out.
Also,
Good.
Also,
Good.
yeah.
whether it's duplicated, we don't care.
No. Question, are we gonna try to do this at Memorial Day weekend or immediately after Memorial Day weekend to get the most people here?
Since we, decided not to have it, this fall or summer, that's a decision we need to be planning for. And I think that makes sense.
I would recommend that we do it early June because Memorial Day is our big influx. We'll have a clarified ordinance. We'll know what how our slash removal has and disposal has worked. I think we ought to try to schedule something maybe in the community center immediately after Memorial Day.
What is the AFCO's meeting? It's on that weekend
Um,
also?
No,
it's
it's middle
usually
of
the
June.
last,
because
it's usually the last Saturday in June.
It last Saturday.
I'm sorry.
Last Saturday in June.
And,
Oh.
and I don't think you want to conflict with that because they have a full slate of activities going
Oh,
on
yeah.
for the
Okay.
members. And I don't think,
So Memorial Day, there is nothing else sort of big events other than,
no,
Other than it being a weekend,
Yeah.
like a holiday weekend, a lot of people aren't gonna do,
well,
but like immediately after.
when
I
we
think
discussed
early
this
June.
earlier, I'm just bringing up
Oh, sure.
discussion. We felt like the evening during the week might be better than the
Mhm.
weekend or a holiday.
I agree with that.
So, just a matter of picking a date and putting it on the calendar.
Yeah, we can look at the end of May. That would give us plenty of time to.
Or early June,
Early
which gets, I think it gets more people here just based upon what we see in church attendance. People really come in here Memorial Day weekend and they're
Well, that's
putting their
not
schedules.
That's,
Memorial
that's
Day
when
weekends
I
are-
end
We would
up
not do it Memorial Day weekend.
correct.
Opening
Not,
all
but
my
the
houses.
following time, I
And then they
think,
stay,
And then they stay.
yes.
Thursday after that holiday weekend.
something of that order.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have,
Which is like May 30th. So I'll just put a note here in May.
Okay. Reserve day. community center. Well, a big action item, and we've already started talking about it, is the fuel modification ordinance. And attached here are the input, includes the input from three of us. And Martha's input was the whole document with the striking phrases that she recommended. I'll let Ray talk about his recommendations briefly. And again, we're not finalizing this. This is input to the fire chief so that we can keep moving ahead with the thoughts and recommendations.
Before we get into the details, what is the plan for involvement of legal counsel on behalf of the village?
Good point.
Because, you know, I think we've all recognized that there are problems. And so, you know, I don't know, I'm not even sure who the legal counsel is at this point.
Anytime there's a change in the ordinance, even if council approves it, it still has to go to legal for final approval.
Right.
Legal could be like, no, this doesn't work.
Yeah, and so
Start again.
Right, and so I guess, and I'm not sure, is it Van Vleck
It's
still?
still Van
Okay,
Vleck and Coppler.
okay, and then you have a backup, right, the other firm?
Yes, the Coppler's the backup, and then we
Okay.
have the municipal league
Okay,
lawyers as
But-
well for service.
so I mean, it seems like this is a sort of a specialized area, right? Like I'm a generalist, right? And I get that this is confusing, what's gonna be legal and what's not legal. And, you know, we want to end up with an enforceable, easy to understand ordinance. Has Randy weighed in and said, yeah, I got you covered, no problem, or no, I need specific, I'm gonna need some specific guidance from an expert on this stuff. Like, I think it makes more sense, just kind of looking at it from my own standpoint, to get it on his plate early rather than later, because he may not feel comfortable with it.
My brain works very much similar to
Okay.
yours.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let Ray speak on his
Sure.
changes, and then I have like a whole thing that I'm gonna talk about.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Yeah.
First of all, and I don't have a legal background, but the ordinance, if you look at it, it's unenforceable. And so it's just another encouragement for people to do it, the fear of being cited. I don't honestly know a single person that's ever been cited and taken to court based on this ordinance that's been on the books for many, many years. But we do have other avenues, and I brought up some of them. New home construction, we should start today and enforce what's on the books. And the threat we have there is the CO. You will not be given a CO until, and we used to do that when we had the building department here on site. But I forget what the mayor said. We haven't had a building department for 7 years, I believe, 6 or 7 years. But Burl used to come out and walk the property with you. He was our inspector. And I swear he paid more attention to the fuel modification requirements than he did your steps or your beams for your deck, because that was important to the village back then. But we've lost that. I don't know if it falls under planning and zoning or the enforcement officer, but we need to start back. Now, amazingly, if you go out and look at the new homes, because the builders got in a habit of doing it, so they kept doing it. They told the homeowner, sorry, you can't have that tree on your deck. We have to have 25 feet, I believe that's correct, of space between trees and structure. So that's just one thing I brought up. We can enforce that. That's easy to enforce because you can threaten the CO.
Question about that? We in the past have said aspens are an exception because they're full of water. I think we need to make that clear.
And I think the inspector was willing to sign off on that.
That is my
Okay.
recall on that also.
Yeah, I believe that did happen, that the aspens and other shrubbery was,
But I didn't see
okay.
that, I did not see aspens accepted in these distances from structure.
Yeah,
in
I think
present.
Earl just did that from a common sense thing.
Okay,
To get for it. It's gonna cost you more than that, I guarantee you, because there's 2 nights lodging, a long drive. But I want to bring that to your attention. That's item A. And then there is a virtual workshop on the very page 17, which I think it's on 2 different part days, not all day, the 12th and the 19th of October. Building a fire adaptive community ambassador workshop approach. So you call in, I think there's a limit of 35. So there's a link there. You can go in and apply. If they don't have more than 35, probably attend it. I'm going to try to do that one as well. So, all the ideas we can get from other, this is in Colorado actually where this is being held, okay, not in New Mexico. Any other comments before we officially close the meeting?
I'm wondering on that international code, are there provisions for enforcement? Because we have our ordinance that's been enforced for decades, and there's never been, as Ray said, never been any enforcement. How do we?
So there's actually like a way that they have it set up where kind of like if there is any issues with it, you can have an appeal board, things like that. As far as like enforcement, it's really up to the entity adopting it to enforce. So how do we go about enforcing it is the question. There's finding, like, kind of spelled out in here, it's like finding the facts, how to rate it. If you'd like, you can have one of these.
Thank you.
And look through it. I welcome any feedback as far as this is concerned.
This is not an agenda item, but I'll throw it out for input. We already talked about the next meeting on October 2nd, I think it was. Third. If anybody wants to suggest agenda topics going forward, please let me know. I'm not the only one that can come up with this prioritization going forward. So I just want to mention that.
One of the things that kind of keeps popping up is the term firewise. Technically speaking, based on firewise rules and regs, like we cannot be a firewise community. And that's why we have done the fire adaptive committee. It's very similar in nature. I just don't want anyone to get that confused. We're not a firewise community because we are too big.
Well, my understanding is that it's a subset of a community per se.
So-
Region, geographically speaking.
If we wanted to do it, we would have to do probably 5 different geographical firewise communities. Each firewise community needs a chair
Right.
and a
Volunteers.
we got council, and so like it was hard enough to get us 5, 6, 7 people here on a regular basis, and so it would be really hard to create 5 other smaller
How's
communities.
it kind of firewise, because
It's
it's smaller numbers.
correct, and so
Geographically, it's pretty big.
geographically it's pretty big, but it has a lot less homes and residential areas, and that's kind of what it looks like to be a firewise. We are a fire adaptive community, not a firewise community. I just wanted to throw that out.
And one of the things in that one virtual thing is how do you get community involvement?
Yeah.
Which I think going forward is going to be huge.
Starting, I think, next week, I'm gonna do I already talked to Lowe's about doing I'm gonna just set up a booth basically in the front of Lowe's, and it's gonna be ask a firefighter a question. And so each person that comes in and comes out, I'm gonna have informational brochures, they can sit, we can have community discussions. That way, whether the community knows it or not, they are getting.
That's great.
That's
Excellent.
fantastic.
So to give you guys a scope of my neighborhood, I have a neighbor, owned property for 3 years, and doesn't even know we're City Hall. Because he's a golfer, and he goes out to dinner, And he's here quite a bit, their family's here quite a bit in the summer. But it's not important to them, you know, so that's a great way to make them aware of what's going on. And I don't know if we can afford more banners when we have a fire ban, but the one down at the highway, if they roll in late at night, they may not even see it. But I think more banners, and I know, and social media is a big help, obviously, but we used to have the big sign out here, which I know it has the warning also, but it used to flash, remember, Vicki, when we had fire? And I don't know why it went down or what it's gonna cost to fix it, but it used to really catch.
It
your
did, and
attention.
it caught everybody's eye.
But anyway, those are just some ideas, but
Yeah.
but that's a great, I think education.
Art, thank you,
Apologies,
sir.
I had 11 right
No,
at that.
I appreciate it.
But,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
And if you do have that electronically, I'd love to.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, take care, everybody, have a good week.
Scott did not come. I have never met Scott.
He was here early on, he's the manager of a ranch, a Bobcat Ranch.
Guy had something he wanted to say.
So I was just gonna suggest, there's a very easy vehicle every month in our bills. And I think an occasional column, in fact, years ago, when I was on the recycle committee, we had columns, a column on the backside of the monthly statement. And, you know, it doesn't have to be tortures, just some quick bullet points of information from the fire
Well,
department.
sadly, a lot of people are going digital.
Digital, but we talked
We
about
still,
that.
we still get a monthly statement.
No, but some people like not to get the mail statement anymore.
Some don't.
I
Yeah,
don't-
but
there's
we
not
don't
an
do that
option for
here.
that, is there?
Yeah.
We don't have that option here.
That's right.
Oh,
If it's
excuse
only
me,
mail.
I thought that was an option.
Everybody
Everybody
gets, yeah. So,
Even
anyway,
if
that's,
you're,
Yeah, you get snail mail no matter what.
I thought it was made clear that.
Once you went electronic. you
we can pay online,
Okay.
Right,
but
but you still get the hard statement. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay, well, any other comments?
I would like to thank the fire department and the wildland people for the slash work they're doing. They are taking wood that is firewood worthy, and Firewood Angels has loaned them a splitter. They got another splitter. They've been splitting and distributing to Mora and Cimarron. And we've also been contacted by some private contractors who are going to come in and do healthy forest treatment, and asked if we would accept logs from them, and we will. If anyone, if the fire department starts doing healthy forest treatment, but contact me, or I'll refer you to people who have access to the gate. The private contractors have said they'll actually deliver the wood to us. But we would appreciate those donations, and we will acknowledge those donations to landowners. So thank you.
I
Any other comments?
just had a couple questions. I was kind of new to this, and we do have, we built on a lot in the PID several years ago, and I wondered, does a property owner have any rights at all to somehow motivate the adjacent lot owner to do something? I mean, my lot is pretty clear.
Right.
We donated some firewood.
Yes.
Try to clean it up. But on that side, I mean, it's just, a mess. And I wondered, is there anything I can do, to either enter his property, clean it up myself? I'll do it. But it's like, when you see these images of Lahaina and Paradise, I mean, where I live is just
I'm
ready to burn
encircled.
up.
I'm like you, I'm encircled with people who have not cleared theirs. Mine is clear. And they go, we just like looking off our deck at your lot. Well, fine, do something with yours.
Let me give you one of these as well, so you can give me your feedback as well. If you
Does
don't
that
mind.
address the issue of,
It does not address trespassing and or vandalizing
Yeah.
someone's property. But
This is a person who has never paid anything for 20 years.
They've not paid taxes.
We can kind of look at some of that stuff
Okay.
as far as like how to inspect it, how to thin it. Are they grant eligible? Are they not grant eligible? Can we go on their property? That's something more as far as like legal is concerned and enforcement. I would discourage you from trespassing.
Yeah.
So you say are they in arrears, do you think?
Oh, yeah, this is,
So
What
you
rights
could
do
maybe
they have?
contact the county and purchase the property?
well, this is a lot that was put on a tax sale years ago. Nobody bid on it because it's uneconomical. The
Right,
assessment and the resort fee and the
Oh, 'cause-
city fees,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's 10 times the price of what the thing is worth.
Right.
And so, and that situation plays out everywhere in Angel Fire.
Correct.
I mean, it's,
That is true.
High elevation especially.
we have a 10-year supply of lots and half the people just don't care. They walked away.
Mhm.
And, after a while, I think the insurance companies are going to come in here and say, we're not going to insure your property.
You got.
Because-
They're starting to do that in California now.
Because of your neighbors,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
just because of the general fire danger.
right?
When people can get insurance, then they're going to wake up.
Insurance companies recognize national code. And so that's why, that's another reason.
It's another
I want to-
reason that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
it
But
would-
if it's not enforced,
But if we're enforcing it,
But see, and a good example here, so if you went in and cleared that lot next to this gentleman, and we call these lots no man's land. They're literally, there's a name on the county deed, but you could call these people, some of them aren't even living in it.
Most, a lot of them are deceased.
And
And the kids don't know anything about it.
the kids don't want anything to do with it. So in the county, I know of a few lots that have sold at the county sale in recent history. And it was people that wanted to combine a lot. So they,
Right.
and, cause I have a similar lot below me. It was sold back in early 2000s and I know it's in arrears. It goes up on the county sale, but,
Mhm.
so I don't know. I guess you could go over and start cutting and wait for someone to show up.
Resort fees to pay.
Well, back dues, back taxes, the city's involved with their back fees. And then you've got the pit, your situation, the pit is gonna be there.
oh.
Have you talked to Don Borgeson about that?
I just joined the pit. And so I know all about the problems with the pit.
Right, right.
And, the pit ought to be buying these lots and cleaning them up and selling them. But they've been really slow.
But you haven't talked, Don Borgeson is kind of our local resident.
Yeah, I've talked to Don a lot about it.
But the pit doesn't own the lot. Because usually the
No.
pit.
No, the pit can only get it through the tax sale.
Oh.
And,
Because
and
the
why they
largest-
haven't been more aggressive, that's why I joined the pit, why they haven't been more aggressive in getting hold of these lots.
Yeah. So when you say you joined the pit, you're either in the pit when you buy.
And I joined the board, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Just to try to get,
Sure.
more plugged into what was going on, but anyway, it just sounds to me like I can't do anything with my adjacent owner,
I think your avenue is through the pit.
until the pit buys it, and then I can buy from the pit.
Most pit lots, the largest, money owed is usually the pit, the cost of the improvement.
Right.
The dues and the taxes are pretty cheap compared to what it costs to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
What's the pit on that lot? 30,000 probably?
well, his tax liability is about $85,000.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll never go anywhere
No.
until,
Wow.
So is it a big, so it's a bigger lot?
no.
so we're actually out of time, so.
Yeah.
Let's officially, 1:05, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.